Have you ever found yourself moving fast, working hard, and grinding toward a goal, only to realize that it may not actually be where you want to go? That's where the power of the pivot comes in. Today, I want to talk to you about something that I have learned firsthand. It's okay to change directions. In fact, sometimes it's the bravest and smartest thing that we can do. It's better to turn and walk slowly in the right direction than keep running full speed in the wrong one. In today's episode, we're going to explore why pivoting isn't failure, it's wisdom, and how to know when it's time to make a shift. Welcome to Investor Evolution Elevate. Whether you're looking to create financial freedom, reclaim your time, or find harmony while you're thriving in your career, this show is for you. Join me each week as we uncover strategies to grow your wealth, nurture your personal development, and elevate your life to new heights so you can live with purpose, joy, and confidence. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're talking about pivoting. And as an entrepreneur, you are going to pivot in your business likely many times. And it's okay. Sometimes you start off in one direction and realize that is not what the market wants, and you need to pivot, you need to shift, you need to change. Maybe you realize it's not what you want, and so now it's time to change. So when do you know that it's time to pivot? Well, if you're feeling burned out and no longer energized by the path you're on, if you feel like you've created something that you're dreading, you don't want to do, and it no longer lights your fire, maybe that's a sign. Now, it could be that you've created a job for yourself versus a business, and that needs some tweaking and not necessarily a pivot. So this is where some discernment needs to come in. Now, maybe it's you're burned out and your goal has changed. Maybe what you were running towards, you're no longer wanting. It no longer fits who you are. You realize maybe you were chasing after that for a reason other than it was what you wanted. So the goal maybe has changed, but you're still chasing this old goal out of habit or out of fear. Maybe you are succeeding. Maybe you are crushing it, but you don't care. It doesn't feel fulfilling to you. It isn't bringing the satisfaction that you wanted. Perhaps it's a time to reflect and decide if we need to change course. Maybe you feel this quiet voice inside saying that something's wrong. This isn't quite right. Maybe it's loud. Maybe there's a big voice saying like, stop, warning. Maybe you don't feel aligned with what you're doing. And if that's the case, again, maybe it's time to step back and look at what you're doing and assess. Now, what I want to say with this whole idea of pivoting is sometimes it's not about changing course. Maybe you need to bring someone in to help. Maybe you are grinding away and doing things that don't fill you up. For example, maybe you're creating a podcast and you love the podcast, but you hate the editing. Maybe you don't need to change the podcast. You just need help. This is where if something doesn't feel right, instead of keeping going and running full steam ahead when you're not sure if it's the right thing, this is where you need to stop and reflect. So I want you to think about it. What is it that has you hesitating? Is it we need to tweak some stuff? Maybe you need help. You can't see how you can keep going at this pace. You need to bring others on with you. Again, it could be this is not your goal anymore. You've been running towards something and you don't even really want it, but you feel like if you stop, that's failure. And I'm here to share with you, it's not failure. If you're learning along the way and you realize, I thought this was what I wanted, maybe you were enticed by the shiny object syndrome and you thought, yep, this is the one, and you realize this doesn't even align with me. Let me tell you a story of how I felt where I needed to pivot. As I started in the Gator program, I was working in that connector role and decided I didn't really like that. I didn't want to continue in that role. And I thought I would go into the TC program. And so I joined the TC program, was going through it. I started planning how I could create my podcast to be a funnel for it. I had plans for Squat Up Summit last year of using that to promote my business. I had all of these plans, but as I was going through the program, I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't really like this. But I'm like, here I am. I paid all this money and I'm making all these plans to make it work. I have this little list that I created, my 100-day challenge to get this business up and running. And I even signed up for an internship for TC work. And so I just kept going with it. The more I kept going, the more I realized this is not for me. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. I am not good at this. Could I get proficient at it? Absolutely. But why? Because I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't something that really used any of my skills. And so I had to realize that and stop and say, this is not the path I want to be on, and that's okay. So let's talk about why we resist pivoting. Because I was in that space where I felt like if I quit now, I was just giving up. It would be one more thing that my family watched me try and fail at. So, big things that I think we hesitate to pivot because of. Number one, fear of failure and fear of wasting time. There's also that concern about what other people will think about us. That's number two. Number three, your identity may be wrapped up in it. This is what I've always done. This is who I've always been. If I change now, who am I? I know that was something for me with wanting to move away from medicine. That's what I've done. I've done that for 20 years. So if I'm no longer a PA, there's an identity loss there. And then the fourth thing that I think comes up is I've come this far, I can't change now because of this thought of the cost, the myth of a sunk cost. We put all our time, all our money, all our energy into it, right? I did that with the TC program. And if I quit now, I wasted all that time. But the truth is, no time is ever wasted if you learn from it, if you were taught something through it. Pivoting isn't quitting, it's evolving. What I learned from TC program, so much. I learned so much about the paperwork, the structure, the organization that was missing for me. So it was really beneficial. I also learned what I'm not good at. And that was valuable information. I know that is not something I want to be doing. But before I was like, oh yeah, I could totally do that. Again, could I totally do it? Could I make it work? Sure. But do I want to? No. And that's okay. I learned a valuable lesson. Yes, it cost me some money to learn that lesson, but at least I know now that's not for me. What can this pivot look like? Maybe it is a 180 in a totally new direction. Maybe it's just a 1-degree shift. It could be big, like changing your career path, your business model, or changing a side hustle or adopting a side hustle. Maybe it's something small, saying no to a project or a partnership that doesn't align with you, or leaving one that no longer fits what you want. Maybe it's shifting your approach, your mindset, or even the pace at which you're going. See, that pivot doesn't have to be completely off track. It could just be, you know what? I need to slow down in this season right now because I was running so fast that I was missing other things. Maybe you were running at such a pace that you were missing family time. And you need to take that step back so you have time for your business as well as time for your family. That can be a small shift, a small pivot. The last thing that a pivot could look like is realigning your actions with your values and your vision. Maybe you lost sight of that throughout the process because you were just so deep in the grind of the work. Again, taking that step back and reevaluating can be very helpful. Sometimes pivoting doesn't mean starting over. It means making a small adjustment that gets you realigned with where you are meant to go. The last thing I wanted to talk about regarding pivoting is how to pivot with purpose. We've said this a couple of times. Number one, pause and reflect. Ask yourself this question: is this still aligned with my goals, my values, and my season of life? Maybe your goals have changed. Maybe because of the season of life you're in, this is no longer where you need to be. So ask yourself, is this still aligned with my goals and where I want to be? Number two, redefine success. What does success mean to you now? Not 5 years ago, now. I was listening to Ed Milet's podcast this week, and his guest on there, Sahil Bloom, talked about one of his college teammates who went to Stanford, played baseball together, and his friend moved back home, became a high school coach, baseball coach, and PE teacher, and he was loving his life. Now, to some, that may not sound like he was successful. That may sound like he fell back into an old pattern. But it's what he wants and it's what he loves doing, and he is lit up by that. He gets to spend quality time with his family. He gets to be around his parents, and his kids get to be around their grandparents. Because of that, for him, that is successful. So when we look at success, what does it mean for you? Not what the world says, not what you think you should be doing, but what would be successful for you? What would be fulfilling for you? And work towards that. Number three, take small steps in a new direction. Pivoting does not have to be dramatic, as we've said before. It can be one small step at a time. Course correcting by 1 degree will change the trajectory of where you're going by leaps and bounds at the end of the journey. It's okay if it's just a small pivot. And finally, number 4, surround yourself with support. Find people who have pivoted, who can cheer you on, and won't hold you back with those negative thoughts of, are you sure is that what you're supposed to be doing? Use that support system also as a sounding board. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I want to do. Here's why I feel like this no longer aligns with what I want to be doing. And use that support system for guidance, for advice, for support. Sometimes they may offer you a perspective that you didn't think about, and that may help you see things differently. I think having people along this journey with you who you can go to for advice, for support, for counsel is incredibly important. And then when you make your decision, they don't have to agree with you, and that's okay. But I bet you they will still be there to support you. And that's what we want. Those are the friends, those are the people that we want in our life. All right, we're wrapping up today. If you feel that nudge to pivot, trust it. You don't need to sprint. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to be brave enough to turn. And again, it could be just a slight turn, because walking slowly in the right direction will always get you farther than running fast towards something that's not meant for you. All right, friends, you know I love some action steps, a little bit of homework. I want you to get your journal out and ask yourself this question: where in your life or your work do you feel out of alignment? And I want you to think about that. I want you to write that down. Why do you feel out of alignment? What feels wrong about it? Is it the pace at which you're going? Is it the direction? Is it because you need help and support? And ask yourself, what's one small pivot that I can make to bring myself in alignment with where I'm at? All right, friends, that's what I got for you this week. Share this episode with a friend who is at a crossroads. Subscribe if this message hit home. And as always, keep elevating because every pivot has a purpose. All right, friends, until next week.